Are you interested in selling and having your significant other part of that with you? Well, we have done that, and it's been with its trials and tribulations, but we're here to talk to you today about the success of working together on eBay and how it's helped save our relationship. So welcome to the channel. I am Prof Sales.
And I'm Just Ask Kaaren.
And this is the Prof Sales YouTube channel where we talk about being a reseller on eBay, Amazon, other e-commerce platforms, being in business for yourself, an entrepreneur, your mindset, positivity, motivation, things of that nature. And we are glad you are here. And we wanted to let you know that this show is live on the interwebs.
And today, as opposed to most other days, it's a little more unscripted on purpose.
True story.
So I wanted to call it like Prof and Kaaren behind the scenes, unscripted. But that just
hard to shout that in the title.
It really is, right? So.
But we have a live audience right now. If you'd ever like to join us, we're on every Monday, Wednesday, Friday at 2 o'clock Eastern Standard Time with a variety of topics, which we mentioned that the channel is about. So if you hear us talking to people in the chat, that's what we're doing. But if you want to leave us a question or comment after the show, this show will post. You'll be able to leave your comments, your feedback, and we encourage you to do that. Let us know if you liked the show, if you didn't like the show, what you liked, what you didn't like. And of course, give us a thumbs up if you're enjoying the content. That's a great face. So,
well, thanks. I'm kind of fond of it myself. I've grown a little used to it by now.
And we already have about 50 people watching, which is great. So thank you guys for coming on today. We appreciate you. And today is, every Monday.
Every day. What are you talking about?
we start talking about the show topic, and sometimes we've talked about it before the day, but a lot of times we start talking about it in the morning we wake up. And we start talking about, well, are we going to talk about this or that? And today was just like that, right?
Just like any other Monday.
We had no topic when we woke up this morning to talk about.
Yeah. We had certainly we had an agenda for the day, all that other craziness is going on. But here we are. What are we going to talk about?
Yeah. And I don't even know where our topics come, from, excuse me. And I always worry about it because I think, we're not going to think of anything. We've talked about everything we want to talk about and we've shared everything we know to share. And then I realized that's never true. And there's always different ways to say it. And the way we feel about things changes too, right? I mean, we evolve over time, just like everybody else. And so I don't know exactly why it came in my brain, but I thought, maybe we should talk about us. We should talk about us. Because a lot of YouTubers out there who talk about reselling or just even business people, entrepreneurs, not just YouTube. They're by themselves. They may have a husband or wife, significant other. They got kids, they got friends, they got family, whatever. But they're really doing it on their own. But there's also a significant percentage of those people who say, I would love it if my husband or my wife or whomever, my business partner,
my child, my teenager.
Right. I would love it if they were involved in this business with me. And so this is not going to be one of those be careful what you wish for stories.
It might.
It might be. But we thought we would share with you guys our journey and what being in business together has meant to us. And it's been a long, strange trip.
Did you say strange?
That's a Grateful Dead lyric. What a long, strange trip it's been. You know that song, Truckin'?
Prof, why don't you sing us a couple of bars?
Nope, I don't get copyright because I sound just like them. So
yeah, so it hasn't always been this polished. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, this is very professional what we're doing right here.
With all our Halloween decorations hanging out in the background, huh?
But we want to take you back in time to about I guess maybe 3.5 years from today. I would say, right? Early 2014, somewhere in there.
Well, go back. I mean, we've been together longer than that.
Right, but I'm talking about the business aspect of it. So Kaaren and I, we met in 2013, which is about over 4 years from the time this video is being broadcast. And here's what's interesting. We were both meeting at a not so great time in our lives. Would you say that's accurate?
Yes.
In some way, and in a lot of ways. Like, you go through seasons of life where, everything's going really well, everything's going terrible. I don't know if this was like the worst season ever, but there was some bad stuff going on for both of us in our lives. Some difficult situations.
Well, and for me, you could argue that I was stuck. Like, I was still stuck in a bad time from years before that, right?
Right. Yes. And I was too, honestly. And we're not going to go into all the detail about why we were in such, bad situations, but we were. And so we met, and we obviously, liked each other, and eventually.
How is that obvious?
Well, eventually, began to love each other. But even though we loved each other, we still had all these things we were struggling with.
Yeah. So we were working on our own thingies, right? And then we came together, and then there's all that transition that goes along with that, right?
Yeah, and when you bring two people together who are struggling, it's not like suddenly everything gets better for them. Sometimes it can get worse. It can be more difficult because you end up, you got one batch of problems, and now you got a bigger batch of problems. And in some ways that happened to us, I think, right? I mean, we're being totally honest. It's not like we came together and everything was perfect from that day on. Not at all. Far from it. When not long after Kaaren and I started dating, I found myself I wrote some brief notes here, but I found myself lacking purpose, failing professionally, I guess. And the reality is I've been failing professionally for a long time. In my previous jobs and so on, I learned things from them, but I still felt like they were failures. In a lot of ways, my own failure, not comparing to anybody else, just that I didn't get anything out of them. Like I didn't evolve and improve myself as an individual, as a person. And that had been going on for a long time, even way before I met Kaaren. And I was lacking, a real sense of knowing what I wanted to do, like what I wanted to do, much less, like having a relationship with her, but what did I want to do? What was going to fill me up and bring, some sense of contentment, I guess is maybe the word, in my life. And I didn't know. And you had some similar situations, but not the same though.
Well, I think we need to go into a little detail, right? When we first met, I was a single, widowed mother with how old was Ben then? Like 12?
Yeah, 12, 13. Yeah, somewhere. Yep.
Still managing a little league concession conglomerate, in a job that was, as we've talked about in great detail, really, I was a hamster on a wheel. Like I had to keep going because I had this other little human that I had to support. And I was probably going 1,000,000 miles a minute and really not knowing what the end game was. I kind of got on a train to nowhere.
Right.
With that, the dreadful job we always talk about that I left a year ago. But it's funny. We entered our lives at an interesting time. I would agree with that.
Maybe it was fate, as you like to say, right?
For the record, I totally believe that we crossed
paths. That's a whole other discussion we're not going to have today. But all right, so there we were, both struggling, personally, professionally, and I was actually out of work at that point through a workplace situation, injury I'd received, and I started thinking about ways to make a few bucks extra. And I'd sold on eBay before in the past, a few years back. And I thought, well, maybe I can do that again. So I would earn a few bucks doing it. I had no real desire at that moment to go full-time doing it. I didn't even know if it was possible to do it, honestly.
You were, when I would go to his apartment and I was talking to somebody about it the other day, like your eBay back then doesn't look anything like it does now.
My eBay Kung Fu now is much better.
But I was talking to somebody about it, and you were selling like you know, vintage coffee mugs and glass vases. And I think that Hannah Montana cup that I have in there,
that was
I stole from his inventory back then. But just like, and what's interesting about what we're going to talk about today is not only have you evolved in your eBay business to what it is, but that's like, we did a similar evolution. And that's, I think, what drove us to talk about this today, that things start one way and you might expect them to go a certain direction, but they don't always end up that way. And that's been, I think that's going to be the coolest part about talking today, is that we're going to explore and look at what that, how that all played out.
But, you know, I'm the type of person who likes, I like the challenge in something. I like to figure something out. And that means something different to everybody, I get. And eBay started doing that because I started making a little income. And Kaaren was not helping me with eBay initially. She was, I think you were actually skeptical of it, right? At that time?
Oh, just tell it like it is, brother. Yeah, well, I was like, I was one of those partners. I was like, yeah, you know, it's his hobby. It's his little whatever it is. And I didn't think that it would ever become certainly what it is now.
Right.
But I thought, okay, it's a great way. You'll make money on the side. More power to you. And I would even like, we would talk about, you know, because my mom is a bit of a collector.
Right.
She's not a seller yet, but she's definitely a collector.
And you were worried about that probably on some level.
Oh, most definitely. Yeah. And because of, you know, things that have changed in my life, like I'm very much a minimalist now. So personally, I don't collect the thingies like I used to.
Right.
You know, I don't have the collection of this or that just taking up space here. So yeah, I was a little skeptical. Not the most supportive Kaaren that you've ever encountered, for
Which
sure.
was great because I was at a time when I needed support. And there you weren't.
No, that's so not true. In everything else, I was the best thing that ever happened to you.
That's true. That is absolutely true. But I did, you know, I did start having a little bit of success. I started watching some YouTube videos, as many of you have watched, other resellers. I started figuring a few things out, started thinking about niches and things like that. I started developing sort of my eBay playbook. I didn't realize at the time, but I was. And eBay provided me with this sense of purpose that I didn't have. It's like, all right, I'm building something here. I'm growing and evolving. It was a distraction. Honestly, it was a distraction from some of the things that have been going on that I was not happy about, and I could spend time focused. It didn't make those things go away, but it required more time and energy that I didn't have to worry about those things. It provided me with a sense of achievement, and only achievement in relation to my own goals. Oh, I've got this many items listed now. I sold this many. I was able to find this brand. I was able to make this customer happy. It was little achievements like that that all added up to a bigger achievement. And it also provided a challenge that, all right, I need to figure this eBay thing out. And I mean, like, I always love the challenge of figuring something out, figuring out how to do it better, how to be more efficient at it, how to be more effective. So it did all those things. And slowly, Kaaren.
Speaking of challenges.
I haven't figured that one out yet. Let's be clear. But slowly, Kaaren became more interested. Is that the right word?
Yeah, just cut to it. So I'm a fixer. Ooh.
True story.
Ooh, that kind of speaks to personally as well as professionally, doesn't it?
Yeah.
But I'm a fixer. When I see that something needs work or someone needs work, and I'm not saying that to be funny, so please don't misunderstand. But it doesn't take long for my heart to become invested. And I'll leave that right there for a moment. But with regard to the business, there were lots of things that could do better. And that's not a criticism of you. Right. But you opened that door. I don't even know what happened or when. I think it was like the 103rd time you were taking a photo of a pair of jeans hung to the back of the spare apartment bedroom door or whatever, that I'm like, babe, I think there's a better way. I think we could do this differently, better. And then that changed to, you know, a different kind of background. And it just kind of went on from there, right? Like everything. And you guys, if you've watched our evolution and how the videos that Jason's made, how they've progressed, I mean, we've kind of put all kind of ideas. Like, we haven't been secretive about our process, and we have overanalyzed and over critiqued and over spreadsheeted and all of that, everything. I didn't know what the word, what is it called? Like data.
Close to another word. I'm glad you didn't say.
No. But there was a time when we were talking about hiring somebody. So we picked apart every minute step of our process and put it down on paper. What does it look like? How are we going to teach somebody else to do it? But that was more, I'm sorry, I kind of jumped ahead, but
no, that's good.
That's how I started helping. The shopping part, that was easy. It's just in my DNA. That was an easy thing to bring me in on.
Well, I got something to say about that.
Oh, just that? You don't have something to say about everything?
Here's the thing. So I was all for Kaaren being involved in the picture process, giving me suggestions about how to take photos, different backdrops, other things about the business. The shopping part was a struggle. And it was a struggle because by that point, I had already put in a lot of time and energy researching things. I had. You got to admit, I had. And not that I knew everything, because I certainly didn't, and I certainly don't now either. But I kind of knew a lot of things that she would push back on, and I would just think, no, that's not right.
That's not what I told you to do or how I told you to do it.
So when we would go sourcing together, which we started doing, she would pick something up, and it was jeans a lot at the beginning, but I think it's good because of blah, blah, blah. And I went, eBay disagrees with you. Remember, I would say stuff like that, like the sales disagree with you. The completeds disagree with you. I mean,
and
that would frustrate her.
And then he would finally say, like, when he would get like over it, when I came to him with like the 30th pair of whatever brand of jeans, he'd be like, why don't you buy them then?
Yes, that is true.
That's how I knew he was like over it.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, you brought money today, right?
I'm like, you spend the money because I'm not doing it because it's not a good buy.
Let me know how that turns out for you.
And so, but she became more and more involved. And that led her to grow too, obviously, in her understanding of things and, sourcing, for instance, and just everything. So there became this relationship between us. Then I guess it was last summer, right? That this one here decided to leave her job.
Yeah. And so I think we need to kind of be a little crystal clear. Like, we talk a lot about, part-time, full-time. When it makes you crazy, you should leave. We're never going to suggest to you that you just unicorns and rainbows it off into the sunset because you're unhappy where you're at. You do have to be sensible. And if you have a family, children, a house, bills, like all of us do, we're not ever suggesting throw caution to the wind and just walk away. However, it might be that you have to. And in my case, it got so bad at the place that I was working. There was actually an incident of harassment that was not being supported at all by my management. It was kind of laughable, actually. So it took me making a formal complaint and them kind of dropping the ball with how they handled it for me to realize I'm not ever going to go anywhere else in this company. I'm going to stay in a position where I'm not respected. I'm not growing. And for this spirit right here, it was stifling. It was killing me.
Yeah.
And it was that gerbil on the runny circly roundy thing, whatever that's called, treadmill for gerbils thing. But that's what it was for me. And I finally one day, another thing happened and I'm like, you know what? No, we're not doing this anymore. And for me, it was a huge leap of faith. Was it the smartest thing I ever did? In some ways, no, when it comes to money. But we were in a position where I wasn't going to put us out on the street necessarily. But because it was so terrible and I was bringing so much of that negativity home, it was affecting our relationship, because that's what we're talking about, relationships. It was affecting our relationships, my son's relationship, like the whole triad here was on high alert because, I'd come home and I would it's either fight or flight with me. And believe it or not, as spicy as I may come across, I don't like to waste energy on confrontation. I really don't, especially if I don't feel as though it's going to make a difference. And sometimes breathing life into whatever it is and saying it out loud does more harm than good. So we had a choice. And I'd been talking, this is the saddest, most pitiful part of this. I'd been talking about leaving that job probably since the day I met you.
Yeah, it had been a good probably 3 years, 2 years.
Arguably, I was never really happy.
Right.
So
you were just, it was inertia that kept you there.
Mm-hmm.
It was just harder to push away from it than it was to kind of keep getting drug along by it.
And so be careful what you ask for. I left one job and came home. That's a funny face. Came home to another. So then what happens? I leave this full-time job and now I'm here. And we're together all the time.
All the time.
Remember how we talk about that balance thing? And we struggled, like especially last August? Because when you work together, it's so easy to fall into the trap of talking business nonstop. Because, you know, and don't get me wrong, like, it's just how we're wired. Like a thought comes into your head and you're like, oh, so tomorrow we can't forget, we have to do, you know, we have to order more padded flat red envelopes, or, hey, what'd you think about, you know, hey, you used too much tape today.
We weren't compartmentalizing.
No, we weren't
at all.
And we own that, and we recognize that. And that's why, you know, we did earlier on, we talked so much about balance. And I know that we're talking about our relationship, but like in your own life, take it like, how is what we're saying, how does it relate to what you're doing? And it's not just your relationship with your significant other or your children or the people, if you have a day job or a night job or whatever, but it all, like, once you accept that it's all related and that you can't just separately do this or separately do that or interact this way with this person or this way with another, it's very freeing, I think. And if you can purposefully and strive to find that balance, it makes a huge difference.
Yeah. And I think that's so true. And, you know, tagging on to what you said, I probably thought when she left her job and we were going to be working together that we would connect to each other on an even deeper level. And the reality is it became more superficial. Yeah. Because of what you said, it revolved around business, and you start taking things for granted, like, oh, we don't need to go on a date night because we see each other 24/7 every day of the week.
Oh, and because, hey, we just drove to the post office together. What do you mean we got to go? We got to go to a movie? What are you talking about?
And it's true. It is such an easy trap to fall into when you go from the normal, quote unquote, not spending all day or all of your time sleeping together, like you're just in that window from when you get home from work to when you go to sleep, to then you're seeing somebody all the time. And that you still need to carve out time and energy and events and things to do that have nothing to do with business. Because work ends up becoming 24/7. And that's what it did for us for a long time. Honestly, it wasn't like, oh, we figured this out after 3 days and it was all better.
Well, and because that happened, we got bumpy.
Yep. Oh, we did. I mean, it caused a different set of issues than what we had when she was working full time or even when I was working full time. You know, and there is some value. Let's be honest about this. There is some value to having time only to yourself. You need that. Like, you have to be able to unplug from everybody else in the world. And that's why social media is such a trap sometimes, because it keeps you plugged in 24/7. But you have to have that time to decompress. And sometimes you need that time to decompress even when it's not with your it's not anything against them. It's just how we're built. Like, we're built to be close to one another and form connections. But we're also built to realize that self-preservation tells you sometimes you need a minute alone just to sort of collect your thoughts, you know. But you know, it's interesting because we still found ways to connect to each other over time. That and the business connections became, as soon as we quit viewing them completely as business, that kind of became its own source of connection in its own way. Now, we couldn't do it all the time, 24/7. And you said that to me several times before I finally got it. You're like, hey, we're talking about business all the time. I'm like, yeah, but what about, you know, I don't know if I was listening to you. Found from all this is, even though we had this friction over, you know, this business and personal balance, it turns out we like each other.
A little bit.
Who knew? You know, because, and I say that with a sense of honesty about it, because for the first, 3 years there, you could argue we were so busy living that we weren't busy connecting. And we were just trying to make it through to the next day. And sometimes life's like that, right? But ours went on for a while in a lot of ways that we were just trying to make it, and we had our own set of inertia there that we were fighting not to break out of, but also not to do something, to do it a little differently as well.
Well, and arguably, you have to really like yourself, like somebody else. You have to fix yourself before you can ever hope to coexist or even try to fix somebody else. When you were talking about earlier about how alone time is important, I think that comes with time and wisdom and confidence in your own self. It's interesting to me that when we're younger, if boyfriend goes and wants to go for a walk without us, or a hike or whatever, go to the gym or whatever, and again, positive intent, if the suggestion even comes up when you're younger that your person wants to do something without you, why is it our immediate go-to is, oh, they're wanting to go spend that time with somebody else.
They're rejecting me.
Exactly. And maybe it's just age and just mellowness or whatever, or grace or whatever it is. That's not the case. Like, there's such comfort in, I had a really, we've had some heavy family stuff and things going on. And like Ben's even part of the dialogue. It's like, we all three recognize that, okay, obviously you've had a hard time here. Why don't you go take some alone time? And it's kind of become a joke with us.
Yeah.
But even he at 17 recognizes that sometimes it's necessary to decompress, compose yourself, because what's the alternative? We take whatever it is that's confounded us or worked us up or caused us stress or anxiety or angst or whatever. And if we don't have an outlet for it, a healthy one, what are we going to do? We're going to project it onto the other people that are closest to us. And while, there's some argument that there's some healthiness to that because that's your safe place, it's also not the fairest way to treat the people that matter most.
Yeah. And we agree on a lot more than we disagree.
We do? I don't know if I agree with that.
See, there we go. This is what I deal with every day. But we had to learn how to handle business conflict and business time management. And that helped us handle relationship conflict, because relationships are conflict. Let's be clear. There's always going to be conflict in relationships. You're never going to agree on everything. One person's going to go this direction. One's going to go in that direction. I mean, there's just always going to be conflict. It's how you deal with it that determines if the relationship lasts or not. Not if you have it, but how you deal with it. And we found that we would have these conflicts over eBay, and we would have to resolve them. And my go-to reaction in that case is, let's resolve it how I think we should resolve it, because I'm right.
True story. But they would never guess that about you.
I think some might guess. But I learned that even in the times that I was right, there was still a compromise to be had. And then there were times when obviously I was not right, and there was a compromise to be had. And she's the same way. She's actually very stubborn too about some things.
Well, again, it's flight or fight. And most of the time I just shut down. Like, if there's conflict here in this house because it's 24/7, my go-to is I just don't talk to you for a week.
Which then drives me absolutely crazy and creates that escalates the conflict to some other level.
It makes it worse. Let's be honest. And I think a lot of why we're talking about this today is we've noticed, like consciously noticed and said out loud to each other, it's really better when we do it this way, or when we talk about it in the moment, or when we don't internalize or project. Like, how often have you guys had an entire conversation in your own head about what you thought someone else was thinking? Right? Like, oh, this happened because Jason feels this way about something, or she did that because, well, she's just not a very happy person, and like so many times we give so much time and energy into things that are beyond our control, like especially the way somebody thinks. Like all you can own is what's inside here, your own thoughts. And so often our own thoughts defeat us.
Yeah, and in that silence, so many negative things breed: fear, resentment,
insecurity,
anger, insecure. Oh gosh, the list goes on, because that's your brain working without enough information. And so it's going to jump to some conclusions, and they're usually not great ones. Usually if you and I are having some sort of disagreement and you're not talking to me about it, I'm not sitting there thinking, well, Kaaren, this is just how she is. It's more like, why is she that way? What is wrong with her? What is wrong with me?
What did I do now?
Yeah, you go through this whole mental process. And we started doing that with eBay, but we realized that really what it was stemming from was our own interpersonal skills between us. It wasn't, eBay just happened to be the subject at that moment. But we also realized that if we didn't resolve the eBay conflicts, the business would suffer, our income would suffer, our quality of life would suffer, our contentment, our peace, our happiness would suffer. Like everything suffered because of that, because it was providing, some of those things. It was helping us in a lot of ways. So in a very real way, we had to resolve our eBay conflict and at the same time resolve our personal conflict. I mean, they really went hand in hand. And I think it's that way no matter what you do. If you're working somewhere and it's terrible, you hate it, you don't enjoy it, it's bringing you down, it's not like you're going to come home and be all happy. You're not. You're going to bring that home with you, and it's going to cascade over in your relationship. And then that's going to create a whole nother set of problems. Or if your relationship is on the rocks and you're having all these struggles, connecting to each other, being close to one another, you're going to take that to work with you. It's going to affect your job. This is how we're wired. Like, I don't know why people think you can separate all this stuff. You can't.
Well, and with a lot of our new resellers that we talk to, coach, interact with, you kind of miss the forest for the trees sometimes, right? Stay with me. I'm going to give you a real world example here. But like, imagine if you and I are dating in the beginning or whatever. How on earth, if all I'm doing is buying the thingies and it's filled up this closet and now it's spilling over into here and I'm stacking stuff in our bedroom, like I can't really expect you to respect what I'm doing in my business if I'm out of balance, if I'm off kilter, if all I'm doing is, and this is a common one, right? Like, so if all you're doing is procuring, if all you're doing is sourcing, and your partner, your person, your family isn't seeing that you're going anywhere with it, you're affecting how they're viewing what you're doing. And in relation to that, how much or not that they're going to support you. Does that make sense?
It does.
Like that's such a common thread with new, not even, like I'd say all resellers. Like if you're getting a bad vibe from your people, some of it, you need to own some of that, I think. Like what are you doing or not doing? Does that make sense to you?
Yeah. Yeah.
So go ahead.
Go ahead.
No. Okay. So the title of the show is what? How eBay saved us, right? And it's not just all of the things that we've talked to today. So in the chat, I would think it would be grand if you guys could tell us some way that your eBay has made your life, your relationships better. Because it's one of the things ever since I left you this morning to go for my appointments, that I've been thinking about, like, how are we better? Like, what have been some of the wonderful outcomes of this business getting better, growing, evolving? And one of the things, like we talk about how Ben, we tried to get him involved, and a lot of resellers try to involve their children, and it's just, an uphill climb. But what was neat, how we ninja'd him, and we actually didn't do it, but we have a really good friend, Luke, Endless Entrepreneurs. He's here locally, and he did a gift. He gave us a gift. He asked Ben to help him.
Yep.
And in doing so, Ben got to be productive in the reselling game, but not for us. And I think that planted a seed. Yeah. I really, really do.
Yeah, he'll take from that. And, eBay is like any other business. If you're doing this, it can be a source of frustration for sure. There are frustrating things about it. But I think because of the way ours evolved, we realized that, this is what's so funny about her. When I saw her in that job, even before it kind of got really tough, I thought to myself, she's been kind of in business and doing her own thing for a lot of years. So to go work for somebody else was never going to quite do it for her. Because, you know, there's just some people who are geared to be worker bees for a while. I would argue maybe not forever, but at least for a while. But then there's a lot of other people who they just have an entrepreneurial spirit. They have to have enough control over their situation that they can feel like their contribution is valued and that, you know, they're able to affect real change. And the situation she was in provided none of those things.
Aww.
She wasn't able to do that. And I thought to myself, I got to get her out of there, if for no other reason, the preservation of us. Because I knew if you were still there, I don't think there would be an us at this point. I really believe that. Because I don't think we could have survived that. Like, that was just such a wave of negativity and just apathy towards you as a person, as an employee, and so on, that was projected, you know, by that company. And we're not singling them out. They're not any different than a lot of other companies, honestly. But it was so negative that there was no way I could love her enough when she came home to make her feel better. It wasn't going to happen. And there was no magic words I could keep saying. And it's because it's how she's wired. She's not going to, she needs some sense of validation. She needs encouragement. I think we all need that.
I was on autopilot for a good many years, and you kind of came along and you saw through a lot of that. And
I'm a see-througher.
I'm a fixer. You're a see-thrower. That's you're turning into me and I you. What's up with that? But so I had to go into autopilot, and I think I got stuck there for a while. And one of the great, you know, analytical things about you personally to me was that you saw through all that. And I think we both kind of ninja'd each other that way, that we might not have wanted to see the best in ourselves, but we certainly saw it in the other person.
Oh, that's great.
You know, like I always believed in you. You always believed in me, even though we might not have believed in ourselves. And Jason's right. You know, I ran a nonprofit for many years. I had my own retail store for many years. And I'd always been in charge. I'd always been the boss. And anybody that knew me probably questioned, you know, why I would ever want to be, you know, let someone else be the boss.
But you understand why.
I do understand why.
In the context of everything that happened.
And I had to.
Right.
But you're right. I don't know where I would be right now if, you know, I didn't have your support. And I'm going to get all mushy, but I would have stayed stuck. And had you not seen it and encouraged, for criminy, I have my own YouTube channel now. Granted, it's not about anything about reselling, like on purpose.
Right.
But I have this little YouTube channel that
You're building a community, sure.
Exactly. A completely different one, but I never would have done that. Like and I was thinking about that this morning, that had you not made all the mistakes and tried all the thingies as the guinea pig, right? You know, that's a huge asset.
Right.
To be able to use you as my, what's it called? My springboard. And that's been huge. So, you know, Ben has come into the community. I've come in and learned so much. You know, people have been saying things and it's going so fast I can't even read it. So,
well, we met a lot of great people and friends from this eBay adventure that we never would have met had we not gone down that road. I mean, eBay led to being parts of these communities, whether it's YouTube or Facebook or the Green Room or whatever it was. And that's led to all kinds of, and
yes,
you know, situations where we've met people and become friends with people.
We've learned like unbelievable amounts of knowledge.
And the best part about it, guys, is that because we made this decision to be in business for ourselves, we were able to control the direction of all that. And we haven't always gotten it right. That's for sure. Made tons of mistakes, make them every day. But we were able to do it on our own terms. At the same time, I think that's where that sense of contentment and fulfillment comes in. Like, that's the thing. When you have a positive self-image and when you're happy with what you're doing and the direction your career or business is going, that also can project over into your other relationships. And that has a good effect, you know, assuming you're not neglecting those other relationships for your career or your job or what have you, your business. But so I really think that it's strange if you were to say, hey, we have these challenges, we have these conflicts between us, and we have all this baggage we've brought into this relationship from other things. And the best way to solve that is to go into business together. I would have said, no, that doesn't make any sense.
So I have to have a memory, like one of the first shows that we ever did together, like in the beginning when I first was allowed to come on the YouTube, somebody said, I just love your chemistry. You know, you like, there's always this level of friction, or I don't even remember what they said. But there's just, and I could remember thinking at the time, yeah, that's not an act. Yeah. that was probably one of those days where you like knew all the things or something. Like you probably don't even remember when that comment first came up, but yep, I got it.
Yeah. We're going to talk, a couple of you guys have some comments and remarks here. And thanks guys for 117 people on the chat. That is awesome.
Yeah. Happy Monday.
Yeah. Let us know you like the content if you can by hitting the like button. We do appreciate that. Only takes a second.
And questions and comments in the live chat. And then if you have things you want to put down below in the comments, we always appreciate those as well. But read, please.
Brandy says, I wish my husband would be willing to thrift without complaining. He goes with me, but doesn't want to wait for me. Why are you laughing?
Because it's going to happen. Bring him a lollipop.
Yeah. I mean, maybe find something there that he would like. Maybe something he would be interested in sourcing, something I don't know. I mean, you kind of have to think outside the box. I think one of the problems we have is, and we had this problem at first when Kaaren would go with me sourcing, I wanted her to do it my way because I thought it was the best way. And it's the best way for me, but it's not the best way for her. And her way pushed us in some other directions we wouldn't have normally gone in that proved to be profitable, proved to be great decisions. And I would have never realized that had I not let her find her own way with it and make her own mistakes, but also her own successes. So I think it's important to let people, sort of find their own way with this. Someone said, I think this question came earlier, who asked who out at the start?
So we don't make any secret. So we met on POF, Plenty of Fish. And it was literally like my last date that I was ever going to take from that. Cause it was just.
That was her last chance.
No, like I was going to, no, I'm not even going to say what I was actually going to do, but.
Oh Lord.
But no. So I don't know. I think you probably like tried to like wiggle your way in. I think it was you.
I think I sent her the first message and then we talked on the phone and decided to go on a date like a week later.
And our first date was playing pool.
Yes. And then hanging out at IHOP for a little bit. And then that was it.
I think I hugged him goodbye. And he thought I was a fruitcake.
Some things never change. But anyway.
And somebody, and I don't know, you did start out saying it was all strange, but somebody earlier said working together actually strengthened their relationship. It got them to work better as a team. And I'm sorry that I don't remember who said it, but that was something that I didn't want to miss. Yes, Adam, we are going to do a Halloween show tomorrow night, probably in the evening, right?
Yeah, we're going to do one.
Yeah.
It might be then.
And we're going to dress up. We just haven't, we don't know.
We don't know what we're dressing up as. We may dress up as resellers.
Somebody said something before Adam too.
So just 10 Pac-Man says, my girl said, why do you buy that junk? No one will ever buy that. Then she saw me making $50 to $100 profit a few times and started getting excited and wanted to go with me. Now she loves it. Yeah. And, don't forget, guys, you have to prove yourself even to your spouse, your boyfriend, your girlfriend, whoever. You got to prove yourself to them to some degree because our natural, like they might believe in you, but they don't believe in it, whatever it is. And if it is reselling on eBay, they might think, okay, well, they want to go try it. I'm going to support them. But I don't know if that's really going to work because it's hard not to make a judgment on what your partner does. You're going to say, oh, well, I don't think they're doing that. And that's great for them. It's a cute little thing, but I don't think it'll ever really work and mount to much. Sometimes it's people. And it's not the worst thing in the world when somebody thinks that. So you always got to prove it. And who knows how it's going to prove it, but you've got to find some, it's got to be meaningful for you too. There's value in that.
And Flip, just hang in there. That I know that a lot of folks are fighting an uphill battle with regard to their significant others. But we have success story after success story here. One of our wrenches, Lauren, bought a lake house with her online sales.
Right.
And they're about to buy a pontoon boat. So, and she still works a day job as well. But she's killing it. And there's lots of people that will tell you the same story. So just hang in there. Just keep fighting the good fight. And, you know, when people see your results, then it starts to shift. And if it doesn't, then don't let it frustrate you. Like, if you're doing all the things that you can do and doing the best at it, and you're reaching the goals that you set for yourself, and someone still is pushing back and just being like just a negative Nancy about the whole thing, dig deep and realize that that's something in them, not you. It's easy for me to say that out loud, but just try hard. Don't let it bring you down, because at some point that negativity and that unsupport has nothing to do with you.
Yeah. And you know, this is the thing, depending on how vocal their opposition is to what you're doing, let's say it's your husband, you may need to have a separate conversation with them and say, hey, this is something I'm doing that I find value in. I think is going to be a good thing for us. And I'd really like to figure out why you seem so negative about it, because you're somewhat, I'm taking it on a level that is almost personal to me at this point, because if it's affecting you that way, it is personal. And maybe it's something in their own makeup. Maybe they had a failed business. Maybe they, you know, don't believe in you like they say they do. Who knows? And that's a deeper issue you need to go handle, because that's a real issue between you potentially. So this could be, if someone really doesn't like the idea of you reselling, it could be symptomatic of something else. And I never with it. She was fighting her own battles, which, you know, you only have so much capacity to do. And as things started evolving, she saw value in it. Great. You know, that's realistic. You can't expect them to just jump for joy either. You actually need a sounding board. You need somebody on the other side of the equation who can say to you, well, that sounds good. Have you considered A, B, and C? That's a good thing. That's what they're supposed to do. You know, they support you, but they also challenge you, because if they challenge you, you'll grow if you view it that way. So I would always make that part of your conversation with them too. It's like, let's really get to the bottom of what's going on, if there is something else going on there. So let's see. I saw on an eBay group that a lady said they were debt-free from selling on eBay. My dream. That's a great dream. That's a great objective to shoot for.
Well, and how many college kids either during or after are getting rid of their debt, their college debt, by augmenting their income through eBay and online resale? It's a real thing. People are doing it.
Yes. And my husband was a little worried at first about me quitting my job and going full time. Now, 5 months later, I'm making more than him. Congratulations, Megan. That's tremendous. 5 months. That's a great ramp up. Very nice.
Cooper, I did catch that, by the way. Serendipitous indeed.
Just don't forget, Megan, the competition is with yourself, not with your husband. You don't want to make it like, aha, I'm better than you because I make more than you. You know, and that can be an easy trap to fall into.
You know, this one is a friend from our local meetups. You know that, right?
Oh, okay, cool. Processed 90% of my death pile in the past 2 months. Nice.
And not sourcing
from a hubby's pile. That's great.
Do you remember? I remember that conversation in the parking lot as
tremendous
we were getting ready
progress.
to leave.
That is really good progress. I mean, you're knocking it out. Let's see. Question: do you guys own your home now? Are you mortgage free or anything? No, we do not. We're actually renting this home. We are in the unique situation of her son goes to a really good school, one of the best in the state. And this school district, like most school districts with that situation, is really expensive to live in. So we're kind of figuring out what to do over here the next year, because he's really only got like a year left, year and a half left.
Yeah.
So we're kind of biding our time on that before we decide where we're going to go from there, because then after that, technically we could live anywhere. And it wouldn't matter.
Well, and not to, you don't, but when you're self-employed, there's things that you have to get into place and do and be able to produce when you buy something. And so we're renting for now. We would love to buy a house, and that's actually, it's either going to happen this 2018 or 2019.
Or an RV.
Yeah, that's a whole nother story. But I would do that. RV there yet. I have the shirt and everything, but I would do that in a second. I would, anyway. So yeah, we're going to make a transition into something bought it just makes sense to us because that's an investment as well. And it's another income stream and a potential way for us to make money. So.
Yeah. College Picker's paying off his student loans of $66K in 1 year with eBay and other sales. Yeah, and Eric's a member of the Green Room. He's one of the co-founders of that, which I'm a part of as well. And there's a link to that in the description of this video if you guys are interested in joining. By the way, it's a great network. It's a great community of networked, like-minded people that are positive and support each other, unlike some of the other groups that are out there, unfortunately. And I've gotten a lot of value out of it. My relationships and partnerships with the people in that group have just been, I can't really put a price tag on it, honestly, because it's just been crazy good and crazy helpful. Let's see. What else is going on here? There's a foreclosed house across the street. Thrift it. That's kind of funny. Let's see. Other people are talking about what they're using their eBay money for.
Cool.
I hear Luke's renting out his townhouse. Yeah, we actually talked to Luke about that, but he'd actually already rented it. We would have absolutely had Luke as a landlord, which would have been a great set of stories.
That would have been a great series of videos in and of itself, right?
Oh no, the landlord's coming over. It's Luke.
That would have been fun.
But yeah, we had actually talked about that. He had actually already had it rented out because the timing would have sort of worked. But he actually wanted to rent it out a little bit earlier than it would have worked for us anyway. But yeah, it's a great, there's great communities here where we are, but they're just really expensive. And we're kind of reluctant to put the money into a house here that we may not end up staying here. You know, I feel like if we do that, it's like, well, we really only have to stay here about another year and a half in this area. And it's just an expensive area to live in. I like it. It's fine, other than the traffic, which that's all.
And arguably we do, like here, like in our immediate area, and I kind of count Columbia in that. So like if you did took a circle and did a 90-mile radius of us, we're in a great area for thrifting.
Oh, it's great. Yeah.
So I don't know that we want to give up that, but where we're at is mucho expensive. And Ben, you know, once he graduates, he's wanting to go to college and he's going to take a gap year or whatever else the boy is going to do. Right. And there's something freeing for us there too. And whether we go in an RV or we do,
there's the RV again,
or we do whatever we do.
We cannot sell jeans if we were living in an RV and driving around the country to different places.
Now that will be a set of videos in and of itself, right?
How would that even work?
And talk about like, okay, so everyone in the chat right now are watching this video, like remember today and like, oh, it's all like shiny, happy people or whatever. Imagine if we get confined to that small of a space in an RV and we're still doing all the thingies that we're doing or whatever that looks like.
You go to your side of the RV. I'm going to mine. All right. We're 3 feet apart.
For real, though. Oh, my goodness. Like, just pull over to the side of the road and let me out.
Yeah, yeah. But we have thought about that because Kaaren here is quite the travel bug. And we have not traveled as much as we would have liked to since we've been together. And an RV would give us that option to do, which we would take. We would travel. We may even stay places for a while, like, you know, several weeks or a month, because you can get good deals at, you know, the RV lots and whatever, the campgrounds and whatever. And you've been to every state, right?
I've been to all 50 states almost twice. The only two, well, actually, yeah. So Hawaii and Alaska were the last two. And those they're kind of expensive to go to. Yeah. So I would go to them. But my favorite place in the country.
Drive to Alaska.
Yeah, we could. I haven't done the Lower Peninsula actually. But my favorite state is Yellowstone. That's not a state. So Wyoming is my favorite state. Yellowstone National Park is my all-time favorite place, arguably on the planet. Like I could go, like and here's why. It's never the same. The landscape changes.
Yeah, it's a volcano.
The demographic change, like everything changes.
That's why it changes.
Like every time I've gone there, I've witnessed different, grizzly, black bear, the wolf population is really cool to follow. I may or no, I can't talk about that story. But there's so many cool things that have happened, and I've been there several times, and we keep planning to go, but then something comes up.
Oh, yeah.
So we're hoping that this summer, maybe the three of us will get out there. And if you haven't been, here's just an unsolicited plug for Yellowstone National Park. One of the most amazing places on the planet.
Yeah, I want to go. I want to see it. It's one of those places you can't really put into words, probably. You just have to be there to see it.
Mm-hmm. Hawaii actually wasn't that bad. We stayed in Maui and then did a couple of jaunts from little hoppers or whatever. And it wasn't bad. We took Ben and the whole family when Ben was about 3. And it was the week of Christmas, so Santa Claus came. It was priceless.
Yeah, that would be great. So, and that speaks to kind of the topic, guys, because whether you're in an RV or you're in a house or an apartment or wherever, you've got this other person that's with you, and there's no reason why eBay should be a source of division between you. Mm. It can be much better than that. It can be something that actually brings you together if you have the right perception of it, if you use it as that. And really the only thing preventing you from using that is just you. There's no magic formula. It's not like we sat down one day and said, hey, let's start a business together so we'll get closer as a couple.
It doesn't work that way.
It just happened. It's weird. Like the decision I made 2 years before to go full time before you left your job led to you getting into that as well. Like, what would you have done otherwise? What will we have done? Like, it would have been totally different if those decisions hadn't been made. So
yeah,
I think it's just weird how it all kind of evolves like that sometimes.
Yeah, we wouldn't be here if all those little things, like remember you traced back your little decisions, we're where we're supposed to be. I believe that with all my heart, that we're given the ability to make choices, and our choices decide our path. And whether I wake up and I'm having an interesting day like I had earlier today and struggling with some mama drama, or we're going to walk 5 miles on our greenway and that's my happy place. I mean, whatever it is, I'm always exactly where I'm supposed to be in that moment. Sometimes are more challenging than others, but instead of being abrasive or giving myself pushback, I'm like, okay, let's just get whatever it is, let's get through it. And there's got to be light at the end of the tunnel. That's the lemonade maker in me, right?
Right. And we still have our issues, but we've resolved now that we're not going to let those issues divide us.
You have issues. I don't have issues.
Well, that's true. And speaking of this working together,
and we kind of had a baby of sorts. We created a wonderful.
Yes. So that this collaboration with us and Steve led to a killer jeans guide that 101 killer jeans brands for women that you can find a link to in the description below this video. And this video is coming out one day before it launches.
Yeah, so there's a bit of a sense of urgency, I guess,
right,
because
it's
as of
price.
Midnight tonight, that coupon goes away, right?
Right.
So, if you want to sell jeans, it's an awesome reference. We put a lot of blood, sweat, and tears into it. It's not really like us. I know we've been plugging it, but we worked hard on it. And
we did.
We don't sell a lot of thingies to our community, but this one in particular is and was and continues to be a labor of love. We researched the brands. We created this, guide similar to other guides in this, series, but we put our spin on it, and it's got a glossary. It's got diagrams. It's got, one thing that we don't talk about that I saw I'm a part of it now, the Shoe Brands Facebook group. The jeans guides have dedicated Facebook groups. So if you're a denim aficionado or maybe neophyte, doesn't matter. Part of purchasing that guide puts you into a jean specific Facebook group that's all jeans all the time. And I can tell you from being a part of the other shoe group that it's a pretty cool place. Like, it's all about of noise, right? It's somebody will post this picture of a shoe or this picture, whatever. And the jeans Facebook group is going to be the same exact way. And we're going to, it's not just our relationship, our conversation doesn't end with that guide. You become part of this community that's dedicated to selling women's jeans, right?
Yes, that's it. And if you've ever thought about it, want to add it on to your business, this is a great way to get started, because we did a lot of the legwork for you over the past several years, honestly. And that's how long it took to kind of come to this point. So I'm going to provide a link here in the chat. There's also a link down below. And it's basically $29.99, which if you use that code PROF sales at the end of it, you should be able to click on that. And we do appreciate everybody's ordered it so far. We're excited about it. I'm really curious to see how people will respond to it and what they think of it. I hope that it will be a great response, but whatever the response is, we also want people to be honest in their reviews of it and what they think, because if we decide to do one for men's, that's the only way it'll be better, is if we know what you thought of it. And I'm not afraid of feedback. I just want it to be constructive and poignant and not just mean. So as long as it's those things, no problem. If you say, hey, I don't like this, I don't like that, would you consider this? Sure, absolutely. I mean, those are all particular things to consider. So check it out. It's $29.99, which I think is a great price. It's not
for the like 100 hours plus that we put into it. Not too shabby. And what's interesting is if you did or you do buy it, like it gets shipped or it gets released tomorrow, right?
Right. It's just a PDF, right?
So it's gonna be out there and people are gonna have access to it. What, 11 a.m. tomorrow? I guess
I think
is when it drops.
It drops like the mic.
Yeah.
Halloween show is set for tomorrow.
Tomorrow evening. So whenever it gets dark. Sorry, we can't be more specific than that, but there's no practice tomorrow.
We're going to do the Halloween show on Halloween.
Did we do that last time? I can't remember.
I don't remember. We may have.
Oh, and I'm also on Thursday, I'm doing a show. You're not even going to be here. How am I going to do it without you? The same way I did it last time. But I'm doing something that I'm calling Date Night with Steve. And it's not what you think. So Steve Raiken, who we worked with on this guide, I'm going to interview him. And it's not really an interview more than it's a conversation. And I'm going to challenge him a little bit. I'm going to talk to him about things that not everybody's asking him, you know, in my own kind of way, because there are certain things like when you first started watching him, I was a little hard on him, right? And that might be a little
hard on me.
That might be an understatement. But there's some very specific things that I want to talk to him about. And it's just going to be a lot of fun. And the fact that he agreed to do it, I think he's a very brave man. But it's going to be sort of a conversation from my point of view. And it should be a lot of fun. And he's being a great sport about it. He pretty much said he'd do it without knowing anything else about it. And I said, well, we're going to call it call it Date Night with Steve. Are you okay with that? And he's like, yeah, well, unless I have a real date. And I'm like, dude, just put it on your calendar and that'll be that and it'll be fine.
You're gonna have a date on, you're gonna have a date on Thursday night.
No, that's why we had to make it on a Thursday. We were gonna do it on a Friday or Saturday, but then it was like I might be cramping his social style there.
That's true.
You know, can't have that happen.
I always like it when we talk to people and we kind of get at these other issues aside from just their reselling or their entrepreneur, acumen. Also, like who they are as a person. I think that's interesting.
Well, and it'll be on this channel, although it would probably bump mine one way or the other. It's a reset. It's Steve. He's a reseller, so it will be here.
Okay.
Okay. But it's going to be a lot of fun, and I'm going to ask some of my girlfriends to contribute to that as well. So.
Oh Lordy. All right, guys. Well, listen. Thanks for showing up today. We appreciate it. Hit that like button if you enjoyed this show, which I think a lot of people have already been doing that. We appreciate that. I don't know. What else you got there, Trixie?
If you're happy and you know it, hit the like button.
Right,
I mean, why does it always have to be whatever? Just like be nice, show support, just whatever. How are we going to go? How are we going to fade into the sunset on this one? Are we going to sing the new jingle? Because I think people liked it.
I don't know if we should sing it today. I think it should be a once a week thing.
All right. So only on Fridays?
There we go. Let's
do
that.
All right. So this is Just Ask Kaaren.
And Prof Sales
saying good sales to you.